What are the different classes of IPv4 addresses and give the range of each class? IPv4 addressing scheme. How many classes are there that we have to answer, and the range of each class? So before we go ahead, there are two schemes, IPv4 addressing scheme and IPv6 addressing scheme. IPv4 is a 32-bit addressing scheme. This is dotted decimal, that is we have 4 numbers from 0 to 255 separated by a dot. Now this IP addressing scheme is divided into 5 classes. Now we have private addresses, public addresses, loopback addresses, some special addresses, which addresses to be used by the public network, internet network, how many hosts can be there, how many networks can be there. All these are answered by the scheme being devised, and that is called the IPv4 addressing scheme, and divided into 5 different classes so that we understand what class belongs to what or does what. In IPv6, because it is elevating now, IPv6 is a 128-bit addressing scheme. Because the 32-bit IPv4 can only handle up to approximately 4 billion devices, and many of these IPv4 addresses, they are not being used or they are just wasted, and we have around 7 to 8 billion people right now. Everyone is having different gadgets. So in order to cater them, IPv6 has come. But since IPv4 is still there, so we need to understand that what is the addressing scheme, what are the classes. So we have 5 classes, A, B, C, D, E. There are 5 classes. Now these classes are dependent, or they have evolved only through the first octet. Now let us take an example. We have a number 192.168.1.152. This is a proper IPv4 address. Now this is a class C address. Now after we complete the discussion, you will realize why it is class C address or why it falls in the class C. So because this is dotted decimal, so there are 3 dots and there are 4 numbers, or 4 numbers as I indicated, from 0 to 255. Now we start from first octet. This first octet, there is a decimal number, or when we convert it into binary, there will be a proper form. So if we start from the left, the first octet, all the 5 classes from A to E, they are identified by the first octet, that is the 8 bits on the leftmost, or you can call that the first decimal number on the leftmost when we start from left. So the first octet leftmost of IP address, the classes are identified by this number. Alright? Which bit is fixed, that decides that which class are we talking about. This class A to E, please understand, all depends on the first octet. Now all the IP address, for example, we have the IPv4 32-bit address. So this address, assume that you are sitting somewhere. You are a host. There will be some other person in your network. He is also a host. And you are in a network, there may be multiple hosts. So first is to identify that on which network you are, because there are millions of networks around. In internet is called as networks or networks. So which network are you belonging? And when you understand in which network you are, what host you are, that is which system, because IP is all about uniquely identifying a host. So the number of networks and hosts per class can be defined. There is a formula, proper formula. If we understand how many network bits are there and how many host bits are there. For example, if the first bit is reserved, that is 0, it is always reserved, it is class A. Second, class B, if the first 2 bits of the first octet is 10. Okay. So this is how you decide in which network you are. That is 2 to the power number of network bits, because the 32-bit address has network bits also and host bit also. The left, it is decided by the class what are the number of network bits, and the remaining are called the host bit. So these all people or the gadgets inside a network can be found out, and the host, how many hosts can be in a network, can also be found out. So for example, class C110 is fixed as the first three numbers of the leftmost bit. Please remember, when we calculate the host IP address, two IP addresses are decreased because they cannot be assigned to host. Because the first IP of the network is the network number, that is in which network you are belonging. And the last IP is nothing but for the broadcast IP. That is, if you want to send a message or send some packet, it will go to everyone in the network. So always you will see the number of hosts will always be 2 less than twice to the power of host bit. So all these class A to E, it all depends on the first octet. What are the bits being specified? They cannot change. For example, class E 1111, the leftmost octet.